What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video on my next set of reviews, which is a video I like to make every couple months just to kind of let people know what I've got going on, what I'm working on, etc. And this time we've got a mix of upcoming new releases, as well as my usual run of older games that I've been working through as well. As it stands, I expect this list to be more or less accurate through probably roughly July, with the only real, I would say, wild card in this scenario being how the Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase and everything wind up playing out. But as it stands, I'm not really expecting any big, major, sudden release date announcement that I need to accommodate. So outside of them shadow dropping something, this is probably what we're looking at. Now, I do want to mention at the start of the video, though, that while Final Fantasy XVI is releasing in June, towards the end of the month, I don't really plan on covering it until it eventually lands on PC, as this is a PC-centric channel, so I don't really have much of an interest in reviewing the console version. But once that drops on PC, I'll take a look. And that is why it's not on this list. So with that out of the way, let's actually talk about what I've got upcoming. First and foremost, I'll be finishing my Dishonored review. Hopefully that'll just be in the next couple of days. Not much to say there, just a game that is very popular that I had never played, so I wanted to get around to it. And for that, we'll just have to see how long the Trials DLC winds up taking me, but otherwise, shouldn't be too much longer there. But then we've got a handful of new releases. First up, we've got Miasma Chronicles, which is coming up in just a couple days actually, on the 23rd. This is a TRPG from the Bearded Ladies, or the people who made Mutant Year Zero, which was an interesting TRPG title that I have previously reviewed, and I'm looking forward to seeing the evolution of that gameplay with their next title. Though much like Mutant Year Zero, this seems to be a post-apocalyptic future that has a relatively high degree of technology, with things like robots being abundant, but ultimately takes place in a not-so-distant future America that has been torn apart by the miasma, whatever that happens to be, and overall I'd say it looks pretty interesting. From there we have the System Shock remake dropping on May 30th, which is actually my birthday, coincidentally. System Shock is actually going to be a remake of the 1994 title of the same name, and while I imagine a lot of people on this channel will be aware, for those who don't, System Shock is the kind of genre-defining game that eventually gave us the rise of things like BioShock, Prey, kind of just immersive sims in general, really. A lot of them owe their existence to System Shock. So this remake aims to introduce that sort of classic title to a new audience, since most people, let's be honest, have not played the original, and I fall into that group myself, which has a lot to do with the fact that I was less than a year old when that game launched. But being as close to video games as I am, it is a title that I know a decent amount about, mostly due to its place in video game history, which is a subject interesting to me, especially as somebody who reviews games for a living, who would have guessed. But one of the key central things about System Shock is the villain, actually, known as Shodan, which is actually a sentient AI that has gone rogue, and one of the most notorious villains in gaming as well. So, very excited to play that one. We'll see how it pans out. Moving right along, though, next we have Aliens Dark Descent. This one is launching on June 20th, and it is a real-time strategy RPG, I would say, based, of course, in the Aliens franchise. We'll be leading some soldiers as they attempt to stop a terrifying xenomorph outbreak on some alien planet. Now, this looks to me to be a very rare real-time with pause TRPG. I don't know a ton about it, and I won't obviously know for sure until I actually have it in my hands playing it. But either way, while the Aliens franchise isn't really a huge deal to me personally, a game like this has a lot of potential to be something really cool. And as one of my favorite genres, I'm pretty excited to check this one out if you couldn't tell. Now, last up for the new titles releasing in this period, we do of course have Diablo. Diablo is going to be a little different from my normal stuff because realistically there's no way I can 100% this thing, especially given its sort of ongoing live service nature where they're going to be introducing seasons, etc. So while I will be reviewing Diablo because I enjoy that franchise, that review is almost certainly going to be a little bit different from my normal content. So we'll see how that pans out. Now, all of these other games are previously released titles that I've been planning on checking out for a while. First up, we have Gears Tactics, a TRPG set, of course, in the Gears of War franchise. That is, from my understanding, a game that takes place before the events of all of the main series, which is good because I have not actually played a lot of Gears of War. I've played it a little bit back in high school with some friends, but I would be lying if I said I was huge on Gears of War or knew a ton about it, outside of very basic stuff. But what I do know a lot about is TRPGs, and I've had a lot of people tell me how great Gears Tactics is in that respect, and it's one of those games people ask me to check out a lot, so I've been wanting to get around to it. From there, though, we have Avernum 1, one of the CRPGs from Spiderweb Software, though specifically I'll be taking a look at Avernum Escape from the Pit, which is, I believe, technically the second remake to the original title, as both of Spiderweb Software's big franchises, Geneforge and Avernum, started their life as like demoware that was later then turned into full games. So the original game, released in 1995, was called Exile Escape from the Pit, I believe, and then that was actually remade into its full game in 2000 with Avernum. And then Avernum got a remake in 2011 or 2012, somewhere in there, I don't remember exactly, with Avernum Escape from the Pit. So that's the one I'll be checking out. And while it will take me a while, eventually I'll get around to doing all main 6 games that are in the Avernum series, especially while we wait on the Geneforge 2 remake that is currently in development, which is likely when I'll pick Geneforge back up. But next up we have the big one with Nioh 1. Nioh is a sort of Souls-like meets Diablo set in a dark fantasy imagining of Japan. But the thing about Nioh is, it's gonna take me a while. I know it's gonna take me a while, so I'm probably gonna aim to do this one in July when there's not much going on. Simply because in order to actually do everything in Nioh, you have to get up to New Game Plus 5 alongside some other tedious things. If all you want is the achievements, that'll likely take you around 100 hours, but we also have all of the New Game Plus stuff, like I mentioned, that adds various rarities and equipment, on top of some sort of arena thing that has a ton of floors as well, from what I understand. But this is another one people ask me to check out all the time, which I imagine is a mix of people thinking I'd actually enjoy it, and the other people who want to see me suffer through the 100% on it, both of which are fine. But while I do plan on getting around to this one, I also expect it to take a substantial amount of time. And then second to last, we have BioShock Infinite, where I will wrap up the BioShock series. Infinite is quite a bit different than the other two, from what I understand. Obviously, it takes place in a very different setting in, I believe it's called Columbia, which is a city in the clouds as opposed to a city underwater, alongside a variety of gameplay changes that I only know some of. And given how much I liked the first 2 BioShocks, I'm curious to see what I wind up thinking about Infinite. Though I will admit I already know the story involves a lot of like time travel and different universe stuff, and that stuff usually doesn't land super well with me, to be honest. But either way, looking forward to checking it out ahead of its spiritual successor's release, Judas, as well as BioShock 4 if that game ever actually winds up seeing the light of day, but we shall see. And then to end the list with a very sort of different title is The Witcher 3. Now the reason this one is different is because this is a game I have played extensively previously. In fact, normally I get 100% on games and then review them, but with The Witcher 3, I did that years ago. It took me like 350 hours. It was a very long time. Looking at my own Steam achievements, I wrapped it up in the middle of the year in 2019. And this year, I've been going through the older Witchers, the first one and the second one, of course, which naturally brings me to the third one in terms of a review, which I don't have. But the primary reason I'm finally getting around to reviewing The Witcher 3 is mostly because of the recent next-gen update for the title, as The Witcher 3 is actually getting to be almost 10 years old, as it just turned 8 very recently. But the next-gen update also changed and overhauled a few things, so I figured it would be a good time to jump into it, check out that update, see all the things it changed, alongside finally doing the review. But that said, I do actually have a little bit of Witcher 3 content that I did previously, specifically a couple of builds that I used for Death March in particular, that were a lot of fun. But either way, I'm looking forward to diving into that one again, and seeing how it holds up against some of my memories from several years ago, now that I've reviewed hundreds of games since then. But that is pretty much all I've got for you guys today, just a look at some of the stuff I've got planned that is upcoming. So hopefully you're looking forward to some of these reviews, alongside, of course, any other content that happens to come up. But that's going to do it for me today. But as always, thank you. People like yourself watching this is ultimately the reason I get to go back and review all these games and play all of these new ones. And with my 30th birthday coming up on the 30th, I am especially grateful that I get to live out my dreams this way, which is in large part thanks to you, the person watching this. So again, thank you, may you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.